I made a lot of misplays at Bandai Cardfest. The first misplay was thinking that I was going to be able to get a nice Valentine's present for my wife in the form of the Bandai Cardfest exclusive Nami leader. She really likes playing that leader, and I was super excited that as a competitor I was going to be able to get early access to the shop and get one for her. Well, that turned out to not be the case. Instead, I waited 8 hours in line before with about 20 people in front of me in line, they said that they were out of the Nami for the day. So I stormed out, very unhappy. I hardly even wanted to play in the tournament the next day. But unfortunately, I did. I was at this point locked in on Mihawk because we were informed after about 3 hours in the line that if we were to reach the next step of the line, we had to confirm our deck lists. I was still debating between playing Ace or Mihawk, and ultimately I think if I had spent the day testing as I wanted to, I would have settled on Ace. I think that just playing a deck that you enjoy is one of the best ways that you can perform well at One Piece events, and I didn't like Mihawk that much. I was under the impression that Mihawk was going to be the deck that would win the tournament because of its significant performance in Top Cut in Oceania, and boy was I wrong. But I had done a lot of testing on Mihawk, which had started with trying to make an Ace video about how to play against Mihawk, and as I was working on that, I was struggling, largely because Lebeppo is just so insanely strong into Ace, because it effectively negates your new gate while establishing a body with a similar stat line and buffing leader without any sort of consequence like taking one of your lives. The way that you're able to win as Ace is by using events like Round Table and Red Rock, but there are some games where you just don't come across those at the right time, and you kind of just fall into a trap where there's nothing you can do about their Labeppos. You want to be able to just remove their Labeppos and put you in a comfortable position with a chain of Red Rocks, but sometimes it's just not feasible, especially because the best way to achieve this is to go second and to have already established a new gate on your 8 Dawn turn, which in and of itself is already difficult enough. But I think that there are lots of ways that you can win as Ace, particularly with going wide to avoid the punishment of Lebeppos, and I still think that it's a solid enough matchup. I ended up putting a lot of time into testing Mihawk, particularly after I got second at a PPG case tournament, and I think I really should have just dedicated all of that time to Ace, and I probably would have settled on a build with quite a few round table in order to just be really consistent into Mihawk. I expected Mihawk to be the most popular deck. Generally, the most popular deck is something that you play against maybe 3 times in a tournament. At Nationals, I played 7 Mihawk mirrors, which was grueling and not the most fun. I'll go over how that went. Round 1, I played a Mihawk mirror, and my opponent saw me search a stun Bonnie, but he still opted to play Tashigi on 5. So I played stun Bonnie on 6, stunned one of his Dawn, and even though he had searched a Shanks, he now had no 7 Dawn play because of the stun Dawn, and I was able to gain advantage on top of just having more Lebeppos than him at the end. Then round 2, I unfortunately threw pretty bad against Emu. My philosophy on One Piece tournaments is that you get one game where your opponent high rolls and you get one game where your deck low rolls, so there's no room to lose a game to mistakes. And so ultimately I already knew that I was in a bit of a tricky situation. The way that I threw is I had 1 Shanks on board. I had played Lebeppo to stun his War Curie, and buffed my leader because he had arrested Najuro. And then he started swinging 8s. My hand was a 2K, Paradise Waterfall, Dead Man's Game, and a Know Your Strength. He swings the first 8, I give him a 2K. He swings the next 8, I do all the math. The best way that he could split if I go to 0 is to go 7, 7, 9, and I'll be able to counter out of that. So I take the life, it's a 7 cost Shanks, a brick, so my numbers have to be right. He goes 7, 7, and then puts 4 Dawn on leader, and he had enough in trash to buff his leader, so I lost by 1k. So that was a really bad throw, and then all I could do was move on and hope that Mihawk, even though it has some consistency issues, wouldn't have those consistency issues for me. Round 3, my opponent had the Mihawk consistency issues. He didn't play anything on 1 Dawn or 3 Dawn, and it allowed me enough advantage to just stay super healthy and not even worry about the potential of him using Paradise Waterfall, because even after using it, he still didn't have enough pressure, and I eventually closed out the game with a DMG. Then, round 4, I played probably my weirdest game of the tournament. It was another Mihawk mirror. He chose to rest his Toshigi and not buff it. I swung 10 at it, and he gave me 2 2Ks and a 1K, going down to, I believe, 3 cards. And then on the next turn, he plays a Shanks. I then played my own Shanks, and I 2K checked his Shanks with another 10 swing. He had the third 2K, unfortunately, and then he established another Shanks. I was unable to ever find Know Your Strength. Otherwise, I think that I would have gained the tempo back, but because I failed to draw that, and I kept trying to clear his bodies, and he kept having the counter, even at one point going to 1 card in hand, playing it Coffin Boat, drawing a card, and then I swung it as Shanks, and the 1 card was a Trichiliocosm. And so eventually I get to a position where I have 0 life to his 4, but I'm able to counter out of his swings. He leaves up 4 Dawn, plays a Zoro, goes to 0 in hand. So then on my turn, I play a Shanks. I rest the Shanks to rest his Zoro. He had an active character, but I think he just missed it and chose not to rest it and just allowed me to rest the Zoro. It improved my swing slightly, because then I didn't have to swing with my 7K Shanks prior to all of my other swings, but ultimately it didn't matter because he drew counter out of life, and his last life was Spiderweb, so there was no way that I was ever going to get a lethal. So I'm already 2-2 and probably out of top cut because a lot of X2s bubble out. I wish that the way that they ran Nationals, much like LCQ, was everyone who goes X2 makes the next day. If there's an uneven number, then the first place could just have a bye. But unfortunately, that's not how it is. There's a lot of X2s that bubble out, so I was already probably out of top cut. Then round 5, I play against my primary testing partner, who is playing my identical list. He ends up Mihawk diffing me. He plays 2 Mihawks to my 0 and locks both of the 7 cost Shanks that I play. And then when I have to go for a lethal, he counters with every card in his hand and has exact counter. So I'm already 2-3. Then I play against another Mihawk mirror. This one was strange because even though I once again lost the dice roll, he chose to go second. I figured that he did this because he played 6 cost Law on his 6th Dawn turn, but ultimately the game just came down to him running out of Lebeppo before I did, so I won. And I think you can kind of see that this is a pretty common theme, and I don't find it to be the most fun way to win a game just by seeing more of a piece than your opponent. This often happened with 8 cost Moria, especially in Black Yellow Luffy, where you could just Moria diff your opponent, and the Lebeppo diff is another similar circumstance. Then at 3-3, I play against another Mihawk. He plays a Carrot on his 5 Dawn turn. I don't like Carrot so much in Mihawk because I feel like it just gives them a great opportunity to swing at a character over their leader. and when I did some swings at the carrot, he protected them, going down to a lower hand size, and he ultimately missed an early turn in order to use DMG to rest the shanks I had left active to play around 9-cost shanks and swing over it. And it kind of didn't get him anywhere because I just played another shanks on the next turn, and then I had more Lebeppo than him. And then I played against another emu. It was a similar circumstance to the first one. They were able to apply a lot of pressure because I had no events. Events are huge because after you play your first shanks, you can rest the Najjuro that they've probably prepped for your shanks, and then lock it plus a Warcury or a Saturn that they've likely played. That keeps a lot of pressure off of you and generally just leads to you winning. I failed to get that. I failed to get Trichiliocosm also to protect my shanks, so he was able to clear one of my shanks, and he ended up with just double Najjuro on the board and applied so much pressure that there was not really a way for me to get back because my hand was just full of a bunch of bricks. So I lost to the first two emus I played against, which is supposed to be my best matchup as Mihawk, and I went second against them, so if I had been playing Ace, I would have done much better, because Ace just has such consistency that Mihawk tends to lack. Then I played against another emu. I was finally able to get my redemption. I was able to play so many Searcher Bonnies that I ultimately won with 5 life, so that felt somewhat good. But then I was just 5-4 going into the last round. In the last round, I played against another Mihawk Mirror, and I don't see stage, which leads me to resting Shanks to try and get enough pressure on him going into his 9-Dawn turn. And he has a 9-cost Shanks, pops mine, and then he plays Mihawk, and then ultimately I'm behind, so I don't really have the privilege of playing around a Paradise Waterfall. He has the Paradise Waterfall, and I just scoop. So I finish 5-5. So overall, a pretty rough event, but I'm going to keep a positive attitude and keep trying new things for the Red Bull events that are upcoming. So hopefully I don't fall into a trap again where I'm so worried about figuring out a different deck that I fail to put out videos. So thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.